Video exposed, incredible moment after cops slapped black woman she transformed into the judge. Kira had always believed that kindness could change the world. As she walked home from her shift at the diner, the evening sun casting a warm glow over her modest apartment building, she glanced at Mr. Thompson. The sweet elderly man was surrounded by 2 officers, raising his voice as his hands trembled. Kira's heart tightened. He was just trying to explain something. She couldn't stand by and watch. "Mr. Thompson, what's going on?" she called out, stepping closer. The clamor of the city faded into a distant hum, her focus sharpening on the escalating tension. As she got closer, she felt the eyes of her neighbors on her, a crowd forming in anxious anticipation. Kira had always been known for her warmth. They needed her now. Without warning, the officers misinterpreted her approach. In an instant, Kira was struck across the face. A gasp swept through the crowd, her neighbor's shocked silence echoed in her ears. She fell, stunned. Pain blossomed across her cheek, but it quickly morphed into something hotter: fury. "No!" she shouted, struggling back to her feet. The rumble of voices grew, anger and disbelief rippling through the group. "You had no right." She saw the anger reflected in her friends' faces, tears stinging her eyes, but she felt something else: undeniable strength fueling her. The crowd exploded. Shouts of justice filled the streets. Kira stood there, bruised but unbroken, a wild spark ignited within her. She had become a symbol of resilience, fighting against the injustice she had just faced. Desperation tasted bitter on her tongue, but in that fire, she felt hope breathe life into her weary spirit. Meanwhile, her estranged father, a shadow of his former self, had returned from years of absence. An old military veteran, haunted by his own battles. When he learned of Kira's encounter, guilt gnawed at him. He longed to mend their fractured bond, acknowledging the pain he had inflicted on his family. Approaching her, he saw not just a daughter but a wounded warrior. "I'm sorry, Kira. I didn't know." His voice trembled as it met her frigid gaze. "I messed up." For a moment, hurt cascaded through her heart. She was still angry. Yet, buried deep was a longing for connection. What had he sacrificed? What sacrifices had her mother made alone? The raw truth of their shared past emerged, laying bare their scars. It threatened to suffocate them both. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Kira's voice steadied with purpose. "I want to let this define me, Dad. Or my kids." She envisioned a path through the pain, inspired by her mother's unwavering belief in change. With neighbors rallying around her, she saw a chance to rise. A local mentor, recognizing her potential for change, suggested a bold step: law school. Fear gripped her moments before she made the decision, the question of her capability echoing loudly. But the fire within swelled as she embraced the journey that lay ahead. She wasn't just fighting for herself, this was her chance to build a legacy of justice for her children. Kira felt the weight of the world dance on her shoulders as her heart raced. Could she truly rise from the ashes of despair and redefine justice in her community? In that moment, she took a step forward, not just for her but for all who were silenced. The courtroom awaited her. Would she confront a system that had sought to hold her back, or would she embrace the destiny beckoning her to claim her voice? Kira was restless that night, her heart racing with the weight of the world. The memory of standing before the crowd, the palpable energy in the air, still lingered like smoke. She could still hear the shouts of justice echoing in her ears, a mantra that wrapped around her and ignited an insatiable desire for change. As she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts swirled between hope and doubt. The shadows danced in her mind, reminding her of her father's apology, the struggle to forgive, and the lingering fear of failure. What if the courtroom was just another battleground? What if her voice was drowned out amid whispers of doubt, swept away as she dared to challenge a broken system? Morning arrived all too soon, and Kira found herself at the diner once again. The comforting hum of the coffee machine and the clatter of plates felt oddly grounding. Yet, even there, the warmth couldn't keep the weight of her thoughts at bay. During slow hours, she began jotting down ideas for her future. A legal pad transformed into a canvas of aspirations, visions of courtrooms, advocacy, and standing strong beside others who defaced injustice. Break a leg, huh? Danny, her colleague, grinned as he filled her coffee cup. His smile sparked a burst of courage in her but also reminded her of the comfort she'd always found in his words. You know, I've seen people change by just having someone believe in them. You got this. She wanted to believe him. With each drop of coffee, she felt layers of resolve coat her bones. That evening, Kira met with her mentor, Mrs. Johnson, a formidable woman with a background in law that mirrored her passion for justice. Their meeting was electric, filled with possibilities and plans that spread like wildfire. Mrs. Johnson's eyes shimmered as she laid out the steps necessary for admission into law school, the foundations of which Kira would need to build a bridge over her troubled past. It won't be easy, but you have a fire in you, Kira. Don't let that flame go out, Mrs. Johnson urged. Challenge yourself. Embrace uncertainty. It's part of growth. Kira nodded, but somewhere inside a flicker of self-doubt still tried to nestle in her heart. The numbers and deadlines felt overwhelming, each a reminder of how unprepared she might be. What kind of student would she be? What if she let everyone down, including herself? Her phone buzzed with a news alert as she left the cafe. The title made her stomach twist: Local Woman Demands Justice, Events of Last Night Spark Nationwide Conversation. Kira felt her pulse quicken with a mixture of pride and pressure. The spotlight was on her now. People were watching, expecting her to carry the weight of their dreams for justice. Taking a deep breath, she knew it wasn't just her story anymore. It was the voice of every person who felt silenced. Kira clutched the strap of her bag tighter, determination blooming in her chest. She wasn't just walking into law school, she was marching towards an opportunity to reshape the narrative. As she approached her apartment building, the reality of her journey loomed before her. Those walls felt too small for the dreams growing within her. The weight of her past collided with the hope of her future, and she realized there was no turning back. Standing at the threshold, Kira turned to look down the street. Moments ago she'd been uncertain, but now, with the city sprawling before her wide, full of stories yet to be told, she felt a pull, a call to action. An urgency thrummed inside, igniting something fierce. What if she could change not only herself, but the entire system? What if it started with her? And as possibilities buzzed in her mind, a voice from behind startled her. Kira? We need to talk. It was Mr. Thompson, his brow knitted with concern. I heard what happened, and I think you need to know something. She took a step toward him, heart pounding. What did he mean? What truth was he about to reveal? Kira's heart raced as Mr. Thompson's words hung in the air, heavy with expectation. He looked worried, his eyes scanning the street as if he feared someone might overhear. The last thing Kira wanted was for word of last night's protest to travel further than it already had. She felt a heat rise in her cheeks, a mix of pride and anxiety swirling in her chest. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He glanced around, motioning her to step closer. I know you're eager to challenge the system, but there is something you need to see first. Something that could change everything. As Kira leaned in, restless anticipation thrummed beneath her skin. What are you talking about? The question slipped out, tinged with urgency. He pulled out his phone and opened a video. The screen flickered to life, revealing a montage of chaotic images from the protest. Kira's stomach dropped when she recognized herself, words of fury dancing from her lips, a fire in her eyes that reflected her inner turmoil. But what caught her breath was the footage that followed. Clips of the aftermath flashed, cops shoving back, bodies colliding, and there, on the screen, a police officer striking a woman who stood up for what was right. The screams of the crowd echoed in the background, and Kira's heart sank further. It was a mix of horror and disbelief. "This is the moment people were talking about," he said, his voice firm. "This is what's igniting outrage. And you're at the center of it." Kira's mind raced. "But I didn't know it would turn like this. I didn't even think exactly," he interrupted, urgency coloring his tone. "You didn't just speak out, your voice is now a symbol. People are waiting to see how you respond, how you lead. This could be your chance to make a real difference." "But I'm not ready," she protested, feeling the weight of expectation crashing down on her. Mr. Thompson's gaze pierced through her doubt. "Kira, you have a rare opportunity here. You can't hide from it. It's not just about you anymore, it's about everyone who has been silenced. Embrace that power." Kira sank onto the steps of her apartment building, the reality of it all crashing in. "What if I mess it up?" The vulnerability in her voice surprised her, a raw honesty emerging that echoed her deepest fears. "There's going to be pressure, Kira, no doubt. But every step you take, every mistake, those are part of the journey. Remember, it's about learning and growing. People respect honesty more than perfection." As he spoke, Kira felt something shift inside her. Doubt was still there but began to transform into something more palpable, a flicker of hope ignited by Mr. Thompson's unwavering belief in her. "What do I do now?" she asked, determination lacing her words. "Use your voice," he urged, the fire of his conviction fueling her resolve. "Speak at the community meeting this weekend. Let the world see you're ready to stand for justice. You are more than a bystander, you're a leader." Taking a deep breath, Kira's nerves steadied. She felt a sudden rush of clarity in the chaos that had engulfed her life. This was her moment, not just for her, but for so many others. Slowly, she nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." Mr. Thompson smiled, relief flooding his features. "That's the spirit. Just remember, you're not alone in this." As he walked away, Kira stared at the city lights flickering in the distance. A mix of fear and excitement danced in her stomach. She couldn't back down now, she had to face the truth head-on. It was bigger than her, but before she could savor the thought, her phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Heart pounding, she glanced down. Exclusive interview, eyewitness reveals shocking details of injustice. What else could this uncover? And who else might it involve? Kira's heart raced anew. With every turn, the storm of truth grew stronger, and she felt it beckoning her into the eye of it. What lay ahead could either make or break everything she had fought for. Kira sat on her steps, her phone gripped tightly in her hand, as the neon lights of the city blurred into a haze. The chaos from the protest replayed in her mind, a visceral reminder of how one moment could change everything. The buzz of her phone jerked her back to reality, pulling her deeper into the whirlwind of rising tensions. She opened the news article, scanning the bold letters. Incredible moment after cops slapped black woman, she transformed into the judge. Her stomach twisted at the thought of being portrayed as a judge or a symbol, titles she didn't feel deserving of. Yet, her heart danced with the thrill of possibility. What if she could be that voice? What if she could truly make a difference? Suddenly, the weight of responsibility pressed down even harder. Kira jumped to her feet, pacing the small porch. This was not just about the protest anymore. It was about real lives, real struggles. She could no longer pull away and pretend that it wasn't happening right before her eyes. She shook her head, frustration bubbling up. Why did it have to be her stepping into this role? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of laughter drifting from down the street. A group of kids played tag, their carefree giggles cutting through the tension hanging in the air. Kira paused, a smile breaking through her worry. For a fleeting moment, she was reminded of the innocence that still existed in their world, the kind she had once taken for granted before all this chaos. But the real world had opened her eyes now. She had seen too much, felt too much. With a sigh, she set her phone down and stepped inside her building, needing a moment to breathe. The reality of the situation slammed into her once more. She was no longer just Kira from the apartment down the hall, she was a part of a movement. A role she never asked for but now felt in her bones. In the solitude of her small room, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. A million questions danced in her mind. What would she say at the meeting? What if she stumbled over her words? What if she didn't resonate with those who had suffered? But in the silence, she also felt a spark. Mr. Thompson's words echoed back to her. Embrace that power. Could she really do this? Could she harness her fears and transform them into something actionable, something that might incite change? Kira picked up her phone again. Her fingers hovered over the screen while she considered reaching out to her friends, those who shared her outrage and passion. They could rally behind her, support her. She wouldn't have to wear this burden alone. Just then, another notification lit up her screen. This one was different. National News Network to cover local protests. The weight of that announcement settled heavily on her heart. Was this shaping into something larger than she'd ever imagined? She hesitated before responding, a deep breath filling her lungs. Kira's resolve solidified, almost like armor forming around her. She would use her voice, not just for herself but for the girls like her, for those who felt powerless. As she texted a few friends, excitement coursed through her veins. But just as quickly, doubt crept back. What if she couldn't rise to the occasion? What if her voice cracked under the pressure? Kira took a moment to silence those thoughts. Her heart raced, not from fear now, but from determination. She had the chance to speak for those who couldn't. And now, she wouldn't let it slip away. Yet, just as she hit send, a man's voice outside caught her attention. Did you see that video? It's everywhere. Intrigued, she pressed her ear against the window, straining to hear more. Her heart sank as she heard the laughter turn into heated discussions. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about the community, and it was stirring something big. What would their response be? How would the meeting unfold? Kira's heart thudded with renewed urgency. The path ahead stretched out, uncertain and daunting. But the stakes were too high to shrink back now. What lay ahead could either unite or divide everything. She once knew. Kira could feel the buzz in the air like static electricity. The community was alive and awake, and the protests had ignited a fire that could no longer be contained. She moved away from the window, her heart pounding as she thought about the upcoming meeting. She needed to be there, to be a part of this movement that was building momentum. People were counting on her. She rummaged through her closet for something to wear, pulling out a simple black dress. It felt fitting, a little somber yet powerful. She wanted to command respect without being too flashy. This wasn't about her, it was about the message, about unity, and about accountability. Kira glanced at her phone again. Messages from her friends had come pouring in. We'll stand with you, do you need a ride? Keep your head up, we believe in you. She felt a rush of warmth sweep through her. In this moment, she was no longer just a girl, she was a leader. As she headed out, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the hallway mirror. It was more than just her appearance she was seeing, it was the weight of expectation, the burden she had chosen to bear. This was her chance to step into the spotlight, not for fame, but for change. And while that thought sent shivers down her spine, the voice inside her whispered, "You're ready." The streets were already buzzing when she stepped outside. Crowds gathered with signs held high, chanting slogans that echoed in her ears. No justice, no peace. End police brutality. Kira wove her way through the throng of people, the energy pulsating around her. Each face she passed carried a story, a pain, a hope. This was not just about a single video, this was about lives, bruised and battered by a system that seemed to turn a blind eye. When she reached the meeting point, Kira noticed a makeshift stage set up, a faint glow from the afternoon sun framing the area. A few leaders were already talking to the crowd, encouraging them to share their experiences. Anxiety trickled back in as she watched others take the mic. What was she going to say that would resonate, that would matter? But as she listened, she realized every voice was a thread woven into the tapestry of their struggle. They had all faced injustice, some more than others. A woman stepped forward, her voice shaking, yet loud enough to draw Kira's focus. "We need accountability," she shouted, tears glistening in her eyes. "We need justice for our sisters." A wave of applause crashed over the crowd, and in that moment, Kira felt a powerful surge of inspiration. She was not alone on this journey. They were all on the same path together. With that thought circling in her mind, Kira took a step toward the stage. The closer she got, the more uncertainty whirled inside her. But each step also birthed a flicker of courage. This was it, this was her moment. She would claim her voice. She had to. As she climbed onto the stage, the crowd turned toward her, awaiting her words. Kira felt their eyes on her, some hopeful, some skeptical. A wave of doubt washed over her, but she fought it down. She opened her mouth, the energy of their collective anticipation electrifying the air. "What will I say?" raced through her mind, but she was no longer thinking about that. She was feeling. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crash echoed from the street behind her. Panic rippled through the crowd, and Kira's heart pounded. Was this protest about to turn chaotic? She steadied herself, ready to speak, but feared the moment might slip from her grasp. The anticipation hung in the air, thick and tangible. Could she find her voice before it all unraveled? Kira's heart raced as she turned toward the noise, a metallic crash that shattered the unity of the crowd like glass breaking underfoot. Faces shifted from determination to fear, the collective energy fraying at the edges. She could see people stepping back, moving toward the periphery as if a storm was brewing. "Stay calm," she shouted, her voice cutting through the nervous murmurs. But in that moment, uncertainty loomed larger than her confidence. Would her words have the weight to command respect, or would they get lost in the chaos? The murmur turned to a ripple of anxiety, and Kira felt it wash over her like a tidal wave. She was at the center of a movement, and yet all she could think about was how quickly it could all escalate. Her heart felt heavy, she needed to channel that fear into something productive. She needed to stand firm, not just for herself but for everyone around her. She took a deep breath, focusing her mind. The voices whispering doubt in her head transformed into echoes of resolve. She remembered the woman's words about justice, the faces of those who shared their stories, and the anger that had fueled this protest. Each one of them had battled their demons, not one of them was here just for herself, and neither would she. Kira stepped into the light, the fading sunlight casting long shadows behind her. The noise from the crowd began to settle, turning into an anxious stillness. She lifted her chin, squaring her shoulders. "We are not here for violence. We are here for truth." The crowd began to respond, rallying around her call. She felt a heartbeat of unity pulse through them, as though her words were igniting an ember of hope. Our struggle does not need chaos. It is fueled by compassion, by accountability, by love for one another. A few leaders nearby nodded, their hands raised, urging the crowd to listen to her. Kira felt their collective energy swelling beneath her like the ocean tides. But just then, a voice shattered the moment. A man emerged from the crowd, his face flushed and eyes wild. "What are you doing? This is just a distraction. They'll never listen to us." Kira's stomach dropped. This could turn ugly. She could see others starting to whisper, doubt creeping back into the air. We are not going to let them divide us, she shot back, her voice firm. This is our moment. If we lose that, we lose everything we've fought for. The crowd shifted, a wave of murmurs passing through like a current. Kira could see acceptance blooming in some faces, a spark ignited by her words. Let us show them, she continued, her heart pounding even louder, that we can stand together, even when we're afraid. Love and determination will prevail over this chaos. The man hesitated, caught between anger and belief. Slowly, his posture softened, as did many others. Kira could feel the tide turning. We need to be the change. We need to stand up to injustice and demand our voices be heard, but that must be done peacefully. Together. People began to raise their signs again, chants bubbling back to the surface. No justice, no peace. Echoed once more, louder this time, as if she had struck a chord deep within them. Kira's pulse quickened not just from the surge of encouragement, but from the realization dawning on her. She could be a catalyst for change. She could wield her voice like a weapon, but a weapon of truth, not rage. With newfound strength, she shouted, "Let them see that we are unbreakable. Let them hear our cries for justice." As the chants grew louder, Kira felt a sense of purpose envelop her. She had found her voice in that moment, but little did she know, challenges lay ahead ones she couldn't yet fathom. What would happen when the fight became more than just words? What would it mean for her to truly lead? The weight of that question loomed, pressing against her spirit as she raised her voice once more. The moment of enlightenment was here, but was she truly ready for what came next? As the chants washed over her like a wave, an electric charge ignited within Kira. Each shout for justice sent shivers down her spine, the strength of the crowd making her heart swell. She felt as if she were part of a larger organism, a body fighting for something more significant than her own fears. But beneath that swell of unity, shadows loomed unseen, yet palpable. Suddenly, a voice cut through the rhythm. "What do we do now?" It belonged to a young woman, her eyes wide, searching Kira's face for direction. Anxiety tinged her voice, and it ripped Kira back to earth. In that moment, she realized that her words were just the beginning. This wasn't just a protest. It was the launching point of something much bigger. Kira scanned the crowd. Fear and pain were etched across many faces. She felt a tightening in her chest, a pressing weight that whispered the truth she couldn't ignore: hope wasn't enough. "We need to organize," she said, her voice rising above the chaos. "We need to make plans beyond today, even beyond tomorrow." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. It fueled her, and Kira pressed on, "Let us share our stories. Let us form groups so our message can spread beyond these streets. We need to take our voices everywhere." The crowd began to react, excitement building again, and Kira's heart soared at the thought of community forming around shared experiences. But the man who had challenged her stood taller now, pushing his way back into the spotlight. "And what if they don't listen? What then?" His voice dripped with doubt. Kira felt a pang in her heart. Doubt was powerful, she had to counter it firmly. "They will listen," she asserted. "If we speak loud enough and clear enough, they won't have a choice. We need to hold rallies, reach out to the media, engage local leaders. We must be more than just a moment, we need to be a movement." The crowd erupted into discussion, voices intertwining like a symphony. Kira could see the change, a slow shift in disposition, hearts pulled back towards hope. Yet the specter of past traumas loomed, a collective memory that whispered of futility and fear. Kira took a sharp breath. "Let us not just do this alone. Let us bring in everyone we know. Friends, family, anyone who believes in justice. Together, we can multiply our strength." Another man, older and with lines of experience in his face, raised his hand. "But what about the risk?" His voice began steady, but it trembled with concern. "People could get hurt." Kira's stomach knotted. The question hung in the air. She thought of everything she had fought for, everything she'd seen. We can be strong and peaceful. Yes, change is dangerous. But we must remain committed to our values. The doubt began melting away. Shouts of agreement filled the space once more, a chorus of belief taking root again. Yet in the quiet corners of Kira's mind, fear remained, a gnawing realization of just how much this fight might demand from her and those she cared for. As energy swelled, Kira found herself at a crossroads. She could feel the flicker of leadership igniting deep within. But what if her voice led them into danger? Were they truly ready for the wall they would hit? In the interlude of fevered discussions, Kira glanced around, catching the eyes of those who had rallied behind her. Each of them wore expressions full of courage and questions. And then, from behind, the thump of heavy boots echoed against the pavement, the sound of approaching authority. Kira's heart sank. The police were coming. What do we do now? Someone whispered, anxiety creeping back in. The stakes were suddenly higher, and Kira felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on her. What would she say to keep them safe, to keep this movement alive in the face of escalating conflict? Facing the oncoming threat, Kira summoned every ounce of courage she possessed. Her heart thundered, she looked at her people, ready to face whatever came next. Was she truly prepared for this challenge? Would she find a way to protect them all? The answer, buried deep within her, began to surface. The fight was just beginning. Kira's heart raced as the sound of the police boots grew louder. She could see them now, a line of officers clad in blue, shields reflecting the sunlight, their eyes scanning the crowd. The atmosphere shifted. What was once a hopeful assembly felt suddenly heavy with tension. She had ignited passion, yet now it hung like a fragile thread. Everyone, listen. Kira shouted, her voice rising against the thumping boots. We must stay calm. We're here for our voices to be heard. Don't let fear drive us apart. A wave of anxiety rippled through the crowd, but Kira saw faces of determination lighting up around her. She knew they were counting on her to lead them through this moment. The police had come to disrupt, to silence, but Kira wouldn't allow that, not now. Remember why we're here, she continued, her voice steady despite the chaos threatening to encircle them. We're here for justice. For change. If we let them intimidate us, we lose everything we've fought for. The crowd's murmur began to morph into chants once again, fueled by Kira's words. But even as they rose in strength, she could feel the tight knot of worry in her stomach for what lay ahead. Would they fall into a confrontation? Would someone get hurt? Kira took a deep breath, trying to shake off the creeping fear. This was about more than just today, this was about every day after. Stay together, everyone. We'll stand united. With a firm resolve, Kira stepped closer to the officers, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The crowd began to part around her, creating a clear line of sight toward the police. She held her breath, feeling the pulse of her own nervousness as she faced them. Officers! She called out, her voice cracking the tension in the air. We are not here to cause trouble. We want to share our message peacefully. Kira reached deep within for the courage she had felt earlier, and it ignited a fire in her eyes. Behind her, the voices of the crowd rose in solidarity, echoing her plea. One officer stepped forward, his posture rigid, eyes scanning Kira's face. Turn back now. You're all violating the assembly ordinance. No. Kira shouted, refusing to back down. We have the right to speak. We are not going to be silenced. The crowd rallied behind her, voices blending into a powerful hum, and Kira's chest swelled again. But she knew power without plan could swing dangerously. We're not your enemy. She cried, her hands raised. Let us express our pain. Let us share our stories. Tension hung thick as an invisible battle began, a struggle between authority and the desire for a voice. The officers hesitated, lines of confusion etched on their faces while the chants grew louder. rising like waves crashing against a cliff. Just as a police officer adjusted his helmet, preparing to use force, Kira caught a flicker of hope in the crowd. She spotted a woman she knew, Lee, a civil rights activist, towering with relentless spirit. Lee locked eyes with Kira, a silent understanding passing between them. If there was one thing she learned from protests, it was the power of gathering the courage of those around her. With a quick nod, Kira directed Lee to step forward and join her in the front line. Together! Kira cried, and those words shackled all doubt, igniting a firestorm of unity. What would come next was uncertain, but they stood united, ready to face whatever storm approached. But as the police shifted, it was clear this standoff was only beginning. Kira's heart thundered as she sensed something deeper brewing. What would this stand against authority cost them? Would anyone back down, or would they find the strength to push through? In that moment, as the heavy anticipation settled over the crowd, Kira prepared herself for whatever the next round would bring. The fight ahead could change everything or end it all in an instant. How far would she have to go? The air crackled with tension as Kira stood at the forefront, her heart thumping in rhythm with the chants around her. The faces of the crowd were marred with a mix of determination and fear, and she could see that everyone held their breath, waiting for a sign. The officers inched closer, their shields glimmering ominously in the sunlight, creating a wall that felt more like a cage. Kira turned to Lee, who now stood resolutely by her side, radiating strength. "We need to show them we're not afraid," Kira said, her voice barely a whisper but taut with conviction. Lee gave a firm nod, eyes sparkling with unwavering resolve. As the chanting swelled, a shift occurred in the crowd. Instead of a collective chorus, individual voices began to emerge. A young man stepped forward, trembling slightly. "I just want to say," he shouted, voice quavering, "that I'm sick of being ignored." His fear was palpable, yet it spoke volumes. Kira watched as others began to join, pouring out their stories, their hearts, their truths. Kira felt the energy change, not just a protest, but a moment of catharsis. She beckoned them closer, her arms wide open until the young man joined her. "Yes. Speak your truth," she encouraged, igniting a small fire within them. One by one, more voices rose. An elderly woman shared her story of pain and loss, while a teenager recounted the injustice she faced in her city. Each narrative woven together created an unbreakable bond among them. They were stories filled with heartbreak but also strength, a reminder that behind every face was a life, a struggle. Kira sensed their unity, a collective spirit she hadn't known they possessed, but the police remained focused, their stance still aggressive, shifting restlessly. Kira could feel the tension bubbling just under the surface. It was only a matter of time before they would attempt to disperse the crowd. And the risk loomed larger now, like a storm threatening to break. "Listen," Kira called out again. "Let us create a circle. We don't need to confront them with hate, let our voices drown out their fear. We can show them we want peace." The crowd responded, stepping closer, forming a circle, arms linked, hearts intertwined. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. It transformed from one of impending violence into a space filled with hope and power, but as Kira raised her head, she felt a sting in her heart, a flash of doubt. What if this wasn't enough? What if they were still seen as a threat? Would her words withstand the weight of authority? Suddenly, a loud sound cut through the crowd. A whistle blew harshly, breaking the connection they built. The police were moving forward, shields raised, shouting orders. Kira's breath caught, fear reared its head anew. "Stay calm. Don't panic," she yelled, but her voice trembled, all hope hinged on this moment. The crowd clung to each other tightly, their unity suddenly felt like a fragile thread in the fierce wind. They would need to either stand firm or brace for the worst. Then, just as Kira felt the ground beneath her start to shift, Lee turned to her with fierce determination. "Kira, whatever happens next, we stand together." Her heart soared, but was it enough? As the police advanced, Kira knew they had to find a way to make themselves heard without descending into chaos. But could they truly navigate this storm? With the flash of blue lights dancing against the backdrop of their gathering, Kira took a deep breath. What would it take to transform this moment of fear into a movement of connection? Kira felt her heart pound in her chest as the police advanced. The unity they had formed moments ago was fragile, yet the strength in the circle held her steady. "We're standing together," Kira shouted, her voice echoing through the crowd. She could see the resolve in people's eyes, reflecting back the flickering hope they all shared. "Remember why we're here," someone shouted from the back, and the chant grew louder, "Justice for all. Justice for all." Kira swelled with emotion as the voices merged into a symphony of strength. The tension in the air was palpable as the cops pressed closer. She could feel the heat radiating off their shields. The officers' faces were calm, but Kira sensed the storm brewing behind them. She steeled herself, scanning the line of bodies in front of her. Those were not just faces, they were stories, lives that mattered. A brave woman from within the circle stepped forward. "We are here for our rights. Our voices deserve to be heard." Her words ignited a spark that crackled across the gathering. Kira felt a wave wash over her, strength pooling at her feet. At that moment, she understood something profound. It wasn't about her or even them individually. This fight was for every soul who felt unheard, every breath that had been snuffed out by injustice. Kira took a step forward, heart pounding with purpose, and raised her hands high. "We are not defying you," she shouted to the officers. "We are standing up for what is right." The crowd behind her surged. "Together," they roared, the power of their collective will smothering the seed of fear that threatened to rupture their resolve. There was magic in that moment. Midnight shone through the cracks of daylight, light backed by thunderous voices. She could see a flicker of uncertainty crossing the officers' faces, a crack in their stoic demeanor. Kira didn't want anger or violence, that wouldn't serve their purpose. "Let us show them that our strength lies in our voices and our unity, not in violence," she called out. Behind her, she felt the crowd respond, lifting their signs higher, fists clenched in the air. And then it happened. A young girl at the front, no more than 12, stepped forward. "My brother was hurt by the police," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He didn't deserve it." The crowd went silent. Kira's heart ached at the raw honesty unfolding. A wave of discontent rolled through as others began to share their own stories, voices breaking through the barriers of oppression and fear. Kira sensed that maybe, just maybe, this was what real transformation looked like. "See?" she whispered to Lee, who stood resolutely by her side, nodding knowingly. "This is not just about us anymore, it's about everyone." As she looked back at the officers, their rigid postures began to soften, expressions flickering with something Kira recognized: humanity. "We stand for justice," she reaffirmed. "And we want to build bridges, not walls. Will you listen to us?" The officer in front hesitated, lowering his shield slightly. Kira's pulse quickened. Was this it? Was this how they could turn the tide? "Let us share our pain, let us speak our truth," she urged, voice full of emotion. "Let us end this cycle and find ways to move forward. Together." The air grew thick with anticipation. For every soul around her whispering their fears, there was now courage radiating. Kira felt invigorated by the essence of hope weaving like a silken thread binding their voices together. One officer stepped forward, lowering his shield fully. "Okay. Talk to me." His voice trembled just a little, as did the atmosphere. Kira's heart soared. "We are here to heal. We want to create change." The crowd surged, a wave of joy swelling. "We're standing together." The officer's vulnerability encouraged others to step forth, building a bridge between protester and protector, cracking the armor of division. Conversations ignited, dialogues blossomed, a discourse born of pain and promise. Kira could hardly believe the transformation happening before her eyes. As words were exchanged, anger softened and understanding took root. The air shifted, weighty tension became a dance of empathy. Kira felt light as she watched her community open like flowers in spring. The stakes were no longer about the past, they were about a future woven from shared aspirations. In that stirring moment of connection, Kira felt her father's voice echo in her heart, resonating with love, acceptance, and the imperative for change. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized she was not just a symbol of struggle but a beacon that had ignited collective conviction. "Thank you for listening," Kira exclaimed as more people poured into the conversation, creating a rhythm of shared humanity. Relief washed over her, the burden lightened as purpose bloomed. Though challenges would remain and battles would still need to be fought, Kira recognized that unity would fuel their efforts. "Change starts here." She beamed, throwing her arms wide, welcoming every voice in that precious moment. "Together, we will rewrite our story, one of justice, love, and above all, hope." As applause erupted and chants harmonized, Kira felt invincible. The journey ahead might be tough, but hand in hand, they could face anything. And maybe, just maybe, a new narrative was being birthed that could transcend their city, their state, perhaps even the nation. With hearts unified, they were ready for what lay ahead, an army of change ready to echo across the land. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your feelings on this ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the power of supporting the channel through these actions.